Tyler Rodriguez wiped the sweat from his forehead as he climbed down from the construction scaffolding. The August heat in Norfolk, Virginia was brutal, and his shift had started at 6 in the morning. His work boots hit the ground with a heavy thud, and he could already feel the soreness creeping into his shoulders. At 24, he sometimes felt like he was carrying the weight of the world. "Hey Tyler, you heading out already?" called out Big Mike, the site foreman who had become something of a father figure to him over the past 2 years. "Yeah, got to get to the diner by 4, Tyler replied, grabbing his water bottle and taking a long drink. "Thanks for letting me leave a few minutes early." Mike shook his head with a knowing smile. "Son, you work harder than any 2 people I know. Don't thank me for giving you 5 minutes to catch your breath." Tyler appreciated Mike's kindness, but he couldn't afford to slow down. Not when his mother needed her medication and his 16-year-old sister Lucia was starting her junior year of high school. Every dollar mattered in the Rodriguez household. The drive home took him through the neighborhoods where he grew up. Small houses with chain-link fences lined the streets, where kids played basketball on makeshift hoops and elderly folks sat on porches trying to catch any breeze that might offer relief from the heat. This was his world, and despite everything, he loved it here. He pulled into the driveway of the modest 2-bedroom house that had been in his family for over a decade. The paint was peeling on the shutters and the front steps creaked when you walked on them, but it was home. His father had always talked about fixing those steps next weekend, but next weekend never came before the heart attack took him 3 years ago. "Mom, I'm home," Tyler called out as he stepped through the front door. "In here, mijo," came the warm voice from the living room. Carmen Rodriguez sat in her wheelchair by the window, a sketchpad balanced on her lap. Before the car accident that damaged her spine 5 years ago, she had been a talented artist who sold her paintings at local galleries. Now, with limited mobility and constant pain, she made what little money she could by taking on small illustration projects from home. "How was work today?" she asked, looking up from her drawing with the same bright smile that had gotten her through every hardship life had thrown at the family. "Good. Mike says the project should keep us busy for another month. Maybe 2, Tyler said, kissing the top of her head. "What are you working on?" "Mrs. Patterson from down the street wants me to draw her grandchildren for their birthday cards. It's not much, but every little bit helps, right?" Tyler felt that familiar tightness in his chest. His mother never complained, never made him feel guilty about the burden he carried, but he saw the worry in her eyes when she thought he wasn't looking. The medical bills from her ongoing treatment were staggering even with insurance. "Where's Lucia?" he asked, changing the subject. "At the library with her study group. That girl is determined to get into college just like her big brother was supposed to." Tyler winced slightly. The full scholarship to Virginia Tech had been his ticket out, his chance to play football and earn a degree in engineering. But when his father died, someone had to step up. Someone had to work. Someone had to take care of the family. College became a luxury they couldn't afford, not when there were immediate needs that couldn't wait 4 years. "I better get changed for my shift at the diner," he said. 40 minutes later, Tyler was tying his apron in the back room of Coastal Eats, a family-owned restaurant near the ocean front. The dinner rush would start soon, and tips were always better on weekends when tourists came through. "Tyler, thank goodness you're here," said Rosa, the owner's daughter who managed the evening shift. "We're short-staffed again and I've got a feeling it's going to be crazy tonight." "No problem. Put me wherever you need me." For the next 5 hours, Tyler moved between tables with practiced efficiency. He had learned to read customers quickly, the impatient businessman who wanted his order taken immediately, the family with small children who needed extra patience, the elderly couple celebrating their anniversary, who just wanted someone to listen to their stories. "Excuse me, could we get some more bread?" asked a woman at table 6. "Of course, right away," Tyler replied with a genuine smile, even though his feet were killing him and he had been on the move for 14 hours straight. As closing time approached, Tyler counted his tips in the back room. $63 and change. Not bad for a Thursday night, but still not enough to make a real dent in what they owed. "You look exhausted," Rosa observed as she finished tallying the register. "When's the last time you took a day off?" Tyler had to think about it. "I worked construction on Saturday, but I had Sunday afternoon free because the beach was too crowded for my lifeguard shift." "Wait, you're still doing the lifeguard thing too?" "Tyler, that's crazy. You're going to burn yourself out." "It's only weekends and the pay isn't much, but..." He shrugged. I actually like it. Makes me feel like I'm doing something that matters, you know? Rosa studied his face. She had known Tyler since high school, had watched him transform from a carefree teenager with big dreams into a young man who carried responsibilities far beyond his years. Your dad would be proud of you, she said quietly. Tyler felt his throat tighten. I hope so. Some days I wonder if I'm doing enough. You're doing more than enough. But promise me you'll be careful this weekend. The weather report is calling for rough surf conditions. As Tyler drove home that night, he thought about Rosa's words. The truth was, his weekend lifeguard job at Virginia Beach was the one part of his week that didn't feel like work. Standing on that tall chair, watching over families enjoying their day at the ocean reminded him of simpler times. It reminded him of the person he used to be before life forced him to grow up so fast. He had been a good athlete in high school, quick reflexes and strong swimming skills that made him a natural for water rescue. The pay was minimal, barely above minimum wage, but there was something about protecting people that fed his soul in a way that construction work and waiting tables never could. When he finally pulled into his driveway, the house was dark except for the porch light his mother always left on for him. Inside, he found a plate of food wrapped in foil and a note that simply said, "Love you, mijo." As Tyler sat at the kitchen table eating his dinner in the quiet house, he allowed himself a moment to dream about the future. Maybe someday things would be easier. Maybe Lucia would get that scholarship she was working so hard for. Maybe his mother's condition would improve. Maybe he would find a way back to school himself. But for now, he had work to do. Tomorrow was Friday, which meant another construction shift, another evening at the restaurant, and then the weekend at the beach. He would keep going because that's what his father would have done. That's what his family needed him to do. Little did Tyler know that this upcoming weekend would change everything. Saturday morning came too early for Tyler, but he dragged himself out of bed at 5:30 anyway. His body ached from the construction work, and his feet still hurt from the long shift at the diner. But he had promised to cover an extra lifeguard shift for Danny, who had called in sick with food poisoning. The drive to Virginia Beach took 40 minutes in the early morning traffic. Tyler sipped his gas station coffee and watched the sun rise over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Despite his exhaustion, there was something peaceful about these quiet moments before the beach filled with people. By 7 o'clock, Tyler was setting up his lifeguard station. He checked his rescue equipment twice, tested his radio, and studied the surf conditions with the practiced eye of someone who had spent countless hours in these waters. The waves were bigger than usual, with a steady wind pushing them toward shore in rapid sets. "Morning, Tyler," called out Janet, the beach supervisor who had been working Virginia Beach for over 20 years. "Appreciate you covering for Danny today. No problem. How are the conditions looking?" Janet frowned as she watched a particularly large wave crash near the pier. "Weather Service is calling for increasingly rough surf throughout the day. We've got a strong offshore wind that's creating some nasty rip currents. I'm thinking we might need to put up the yellow flags by noon." Tyler nodded. Yellow flags meant increased caution for swimmers. On days like this, most of his job would be preventing problems before they started, keeping inexperienced swimmers in the safer areas closer to shore. As the morning progressed, families began arriving for their beach day. Tyler watched children build sand castles while their parents set up umbrellas and chairs. Teenagers played volleyball near the water's edge. Elderly couples walked hand in hand along the shoreline. This was why he loved this job, being part of people's happy memories, even if they never knew his name. Around 10:30, Tyler noticed a group of young people in their early 20s setting up near his station. They had expensive-looking beach gear and what appeared to be professional photography equipment. Probably influencers or travel bloggers documenting their trip, he thought. Nothing unusual about that. One young woman from the group caught his attention, not because she was particularly loud or causing problems, but because she seemed different from the others. While her friends posed for photos and complained about the wind mess, sing up their hair, she sat quietly reading a book. When a small child's beach ball rolled toward their area, she smiled and tossed it back with a friendly wave. "Excuse me, lifeguard," called one of the guys from the group, approaching Tyler's chair. "Is it safe to go bodyboarding today? The waves look pretty big." Tyler climbed down to talk to him properly. "The surf is definitely more challenging than usual today. If you're experienced and stay in the designated swimming area, you should be okay. But I'd recommend staying closer to shore than you might normally. Cool, thanks, man. My friend over there, he pointed to the woman with the book. She's a really strong swimmer. Used to be on her college team or something. Tyler glanced over at her again. She had put her book down and was waxing a bodyboard with careful, methodical movements. Her technique suggested she knew what she was doing. Just remember, Tyler said, even experienced swimmers can get into trouble when conditions change quickly. Keep an eye on each other out there. By noon, the wind had picked up significantly, and Janet made the call to raise the yellow caution flags. Tyler used his megaphone to alert beachgoers about the increased surf conditions and reminded everyone to swim in the designated areas only. Most people heeded the warnings, but a few stubborn swimmers continued to venture out further than Tyler was comfortable with. He made several preventive rescues throughout the early afternoon, swimming out to redirect people who were getting too close to the rip current zones. Around 2 o'clock, the young woman from the group finally entered the water with her bodyboard. Tyler kept a close eye on her as she paddled out. True to her friend's word, she was clearly an experienced swimmer, moving through the waves with confidence and skill. For about 20 minutes, she enjoyed the bigger waves without any problems, staying in the safe zone and demonstrating good judgment about which waves to catch and which to let pass. Tyler relaxed slightly, turning his attention to a family with small children who were playing a bit too close to the water's edge. That's when everything changed in an instant. A larger set of waves rolled in, bigger than anything they had seen all day. Tyler watched in horror as the woman got caught in the worst possible position, too far from shore when the waves hit, right in the path of a powerful rip current that formed as the water rushed back out to sea. He could see her fighting against the current, but even her strong swimming skills were no match for the ocean's power. The rip was pulling her further from shore with each passing second, and Tyler could tell she was starting to panic as she realized she couldn't swim back to safety. Without hesitation, Tyler grabbed his rescue buoy and torpedo float, signaling to Janet as he sprinted toward the water. "Rip current rescue, Sector 3, he radioed, his voice calm and professional despite the adrenaline surging through his body. The swim out to her seemed to take forever, even though Tyler knew it was probably less than 2 minutes. Fighting against the same waves and current that had trapped her, he pushed his tired body harder than he had in years. Every stroke mattered. Every second counted. When he reached her, she was exhausted and struggling to keep her head above water. Her bodyboard had been torn away by the current, and Tyler could see the fear in her eyes. "I've got you," he said, trying to keep his voice calm and reassuring. "Just relax and let me do the work, okay?" Getting them both back to shore safely required every bit of Tyler's training and experience. The rip current kept trying to pull them back out, and the waves seemed determined to push them under. He had to time their movement carefully, using the brief lulls between wave sets to make progress toward the beach. The young woman had stopped fighting the water and was letting Tyler guide them both, which made his job easier, but also meant she was getting weaker. He could feel her grip on the rescue buoy becoming less secure. "Stay with me," he encouraged her. "We're almost there. The last 50 yards were the hardest." Tyler's lungs burned and his arms felt like lead, but he kept swimming. Finally, he felt sand beneath his feet and was able to stand, lifting her up and helping her walk the last few steps to dry land. A crowd had gathered on the beach, including paramedics who Janet had called as a precaution. Tyler gently helped the woman sit down on the sand, checking her breathing and pulse while the EMTs took over her care. "Thank you," she whispered, still catching her breath. I really thought I wasn't going to make it." "You're safe now," Tyler replied. "The paramedics are going to check you over and make sure everything's okay." As the ambulance prepared to transport her to the hospital for observation, local news reporters who had been at the beach for a summer safety story began asking Tyler questions. Camera crews appeared seemingly out of nowhere, shoving microphones in his face. "Sir, can you tell us what happened out there? How long have you been a lifeguard?" "That was an incredible rescue. You're a real hero." Tyler felt uncomfortable with all the attention. "I was just doing my job," he said simply. "This is what we train for. I'm just glad she's okay." After the ambulance left and the reporters finally moved on to other stories, Tyler climbed back up to his lifeguard chair. His shift wasn't over, and there were still hundreds of people on the beach who needed his protection. Janet approached his station later in the afternoon. "That was excellent work out there, Tyler. Textbook rescue under difficult conditions. Thanks, Tyler replied, his eyes never leaving the water. Just hope she recovers fully. As the sun began to set and families packed up their beach gear, Tyler reflected on the day's events. He had saved someone's life, but to him it felt like just another part of the job. He had no idea that the young woman he had pulled from the ocean would soon change his life in ways he could never imagine. All he knew was that he had work to do tomorrow, bills to pay, and a family counting on him. The rescue was already becoming just another story to tell his mother and sister over dinner. Little did Tyler know that this was only the beginning. Tuesday afternoon, Tyler was finishing up his construction shift when his phone buzzed with a text from Janet at the beach. The woman you rescued wants to come by and thank you in person. She'll be at the lifeguard station around 4 p.m. if you're available. Tyler wiped his hands on his work shirt and checked the time. He wasn't scheduled to work at the beach today, but he had about an hour before his shift at the diner started. It would be nice to see that she had recovered fully from the weekend incident. He drove straight to Virginia Beach, still wearing his dusty work clothes and steel-toed boots. The beach was quieter on a Tuesday afternoon, with mostly locals walking their dogs and a few dedicated surfers taking advantage of the smaller waves. Tyler spotted her immediately. She was sitting on the sand near the lifeguard station, wearing simple jeans and a white t-shirt, her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked completely different from the struggling swimmer he had pulled from the rough surf just 3 days earlier. "Hi," she said, standing up as he approached. "I'm Isabella. I don't think we were properly introduced the other day." "Tyler," he replied with a smile. "Good to see you looking so much better. How are you feeling?" "Much better, thanks to you." Isabella's voice was warm but carried a slight accent that Tyler couldn't quite place. "I spent Sunday night in the hospital for observation, but the doctor said I was fine. Just needed rest and fluids." They walked along the waterline as they talked. Isabella seemed genuinely interested in learning about Tyler's life, asking questions about how long he had been a lifeguard and what he did when he wasn't working at the beach. "I work construction during the week," Tyler explained. "And I wait tables at a restaurant in the evenings. The lifeguard thing is just weekends, but I really enjoy it." "That sounds like a lot of work," Isabella said, her brow furrowing with concern. "When do you have time to relax?" Tyler shrugged. "Not much downtime, but that's okay. My family needs the income, and I like staying busy." As they continued walking, Tyler found himself relaxing around Isabella. She was easy to talk to, with a genuine curiosity about his world that felt refreshing. Most people he met either felt sorry for him when they learned about his situation, or they couldn't relate to working multiple jobs just to get by. "What about you?" Tyler asked. "Are you visiting from out of state? Your friends mentioned you were traveling." "Yeah, I'm from California, Los Angeles area." Isabella kicked at the sand as they walked. "I'm taking some time off from school before my senior year. Just needed a break from everything, you know?" Tyler nodded, though he couldn't really relate to having the luxury of taking time off from responsibilities. Still, he didn't want to judge. Everyone had their own challenges. "What are you studying?" he asked. "Business," Isabella said quickly, then changed the subject. "What about you? Did you go to college?" "I was supposed to," Tyler said, trying to keep the disappointment out of his voice. "Had a football scholarship to Virginia Tech, but things changed after my dad died. Family needed me to work instead." Isabella stopped walking and turned to face him. "I'm sorry about your father." "That must have been really hard." "Thanks, it was. But we're managing okay." Tyler appreciated that she didn't offer empty platitudes or try to fix his problems like some people did. They found a spot to sit on a piece of driftwood, watching the waves roll in as the afternoon sun began to sink low. Air in the sky. Tyler glanced at his watch and realized he needed to leave soon for his restaurant shift. "I should probably head out," he said. "I've got to work at the diner tonight." "Of course," Isabella said, standing up. "Thanks for taking the time to meet with me. It really means a lot." As they walked back toward the parking area, Tyler noticed Isabella's phone buzzing constantly. She kept ignoring it, but he could see the screen lighting up every few seconds. "Popular person," he joked. Isabella looked embarrassed. "My friends are kind of high maintenance. They want to know where I am every minute of the day." When they reached the parking lot, Tyler was surprised to see Isabella walking toward a sleek black SUV with tinted windows. It looked expensive. Definitely not the kind of car most college students drove. Nice ride, Tyler commented. Rental? Something like that, Isabella said vaguely. My uncle has connections in the car business. Tyler's pickup truck was parked a few spaces away, and he suddenly felt self-conscious about the rust spots and the construction company logo on the side. Isabella didn't seem to notice or care, though. Would you maybe want to get coffee sometime? She asked. I'm in town for another week or so, and I'd love to hear more about your lifeguard stories. Sure, Tyler said, genuinely pleased. I know a good place downtown. Nothing fancy, but they make great coffee. Perfect. I'll text you. As Tyler drove away, he found himself smiling. Isabella seemed like a really nice person, and it had been a long time since he had made a new friend. Most of his high school buddies had gone off to college or moved away, and his work schedule didn't leave much time for socializing. 2 days later, they met at Coastal Beans, a small coffee shop near the Norfolk waterfront that Tyler had discovered during his lunch breaks from construction work. He arrived straight from the job site, still dusty and tired, but Isabella had insisted she didn't mind. She was already waiting when he got there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee. Tyler noticed she had paid for both drinks and left a generous tip in the jar. You didn't have to buy my coffee, Tyler said as he sat down. It's the least I could do, Isabella replied. Besides, you saved my life. I think I owe you more than a cup of coffee. They talked for over an hour, and Tyler found himself really enjoying Isabella's company. She was smart and funny, with strong opinions about everything from environmental issues to social justice. She seemed genuinely interested in his perspective on things even when they disagreed. But as the conversation continued, Tyler began noticing small inconsistencies in Isabella's story. She mentioned having been to restaurants in Los Angeles that Tyler was pretty sure cost more than he made in a month. She talked casually about international travel, like it was no big deal to fly to Paris for a weekend. When her phone rang and she glanced at the screen, Tyler caught a glimpse of what looked like a very expensive device. Your school must have a really good study abroad program, Tyler said, testing his growing suspicion. Isabella paused, looking uncomfortable. Yeah, they have good connections with programs overseas. When Isabella excused herself to use the restroom, she left her purse on the table. The zipper was slightly open, and Tyler couldn't help but notice what looked like a credit card with Isabella Chen written in gold lettering. Below her name, he could make out the words private banking. Tyler felt a knot forming in his stomach. Private banking was something he had only heard about in movies, the kind of service reserved for people with serious money. When Isabella returned, Tyler decided to be direct. Can I ask you something? And please be honest with me. Isabella sat down slowly, seeming to sense where this was heading. Of course. Are you really just a regular college student taking time off from school? Isabella stared at her coffee cup for a long moment before looking up at Tyler. Her eyes were filled with something that looked like shame, mixed with fear. No, she said quietly. I'm not. Tyler waited, giving her space to explain. My full name is Isabella Chen, she began. My father is David Chen. He owns Chen Dynamics, a technology company in California. Tyler didn't recognize the name, but the way she said it suggested he should. Is it a big company? Isabella laughed, but there was no humor in it. My family is worth about $3 billion, Tyler. My father is one of the richest people in the tech industry. Tyler felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. $3 billion. He couldn't even wrap his mind around that number. His family struggled to pay a few $1,000s in medical bills, and this woman could probably buy his entire neighborhood without thinking about it. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, his voice quieter than before. Because of this, Isabella said, gesturing at the space between them. Because of the way you're looking at me right now. Like I'm a completely different person than I was 5 minutes ago. Tyler realized she was right. Everything felt different now. The easy friendship. The genuine connection he thought they had been building. It all felt complicated and confusing. I don't know what to say, Tyler admitted. You don't have to say anything, Isabella replied. Standing up from the table. I understand if this changes things. Most people can't handle being around someone like me once they know the truth. As she walked toward the door, Tyler sat frozen in his chair, trying to process what had just happened. The woman who had seemed so normal, so relatable, was actually one of the wealthiest people he would probably ever meet. And for some reason he couldn't explain, that realization made him feel more alone than he had in a very long time. Tyler didn't sleep well that night. He kept replaying the conversation at the coffee shop, trying to make sense of everything Isabella had told him. $3 billion. The number kept spinning around in his head like a broken record. He got up early Thursday morning and threw himself into his construction work, hoping physical labor would clear his mind. But even as he carried heavy materials and operated machinery, he couldn't stop thinking about Isabella, about how natural their friendship had felt before he knew the truth. Around noon, his phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Isabella. I know yesterday was a lot to process. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. If you want to talk, I'm staying at the Cavalier Hotel, room 1847. No pressure, but I'd like to explain. Tyler stared at the message for a long time. The Cavalier Hotel was the most expensive place in Virginia Beach. He had driven past it hundreds of times but never imagined actually going inside. The fact that Isabella was staying there somehow made everything feel even more real. After his shift ended, Tyler found himself driving toward the hotel before he had consciously decided to go. The valet parking attendant looked surprised when Tyler's dusty pickup truck pulled up to the entrance, but he professionally took the keys without comment. The lobby was like nothing Tyler had ever seen. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and furniture that probably cost more than his family's annual rent. He felt completely out of place in his work clothes and steel-toed boots. I'm here to see Isabella Chen, Tyler told the front desk clerk. Room 1847. The clerk made a quick phone call, then handed Tyler a key card. She's expecting you. The elevators are to your right. Room 1847 turned out to be the penthouse suite. When the elevator doors opened, Tyler stepped into what looked more like a luxury apartment than a hotel room. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the ocean, and the furniture looked like it belonged in a magazine. Isabella was standing by the windows when he walked in. She had changed into casual clothes, but even her jeans and sweater looked expensive to Tyler's newly sensitive eye. You came, she said, turning around with a mix of relief and surprise on her face. I needed to understand, Tyler replied. This whole thing, it's just a lot to wrap my head around. They sat down on opposite ends of a plush sofa, the awkwardness between them obvious after their easy conversation just days before. I want you to know that everything I told you about myself was true, Isabella began, except for the money part. I really am taking time off from college. I really do feel trapped by everyone's expectations, and I really am grateful that you saved my life. Tyler nodded slowly. I believe you. It's just, why are you here? In Virginia Beach, I mean. Don't rich people have their own private beaches or something? Isabella laughed, and for a moment she sounded like the person Tyler had been getting to know. You'd be surprised how suffocating that world can be. I wanted to go somewhere where nobody knew who I was, where I could just be a normal person for a few weeks. Mission accomplished, I guess, Tyler said. I had no idea who you were. And that's exactly why I liked you, Isabella said. You treated me like a regular person. Do you know how rare that is for someone in my position? Over the next hour, Isabella told Tyler more about her life. The constant pressure to represent the family name perfectly, the friends who only wanted to be around her for her money, the knowledge that she would someday inherit a business empire whether she wanted it or not. It sounds lonely, Tyler said, and he meant it. It is, Isabella admitted. That's why meeting you meant so much to me. For the first time in years, someone saw me as just Isabella, not Isabella Chen, daughter of a billionaire. Tyler felt some of his anger melting away, replaced by something that felt like understanding. They came from completely different worlds, That loneliness was something he could relate to. Working 3 jobs to support his family didn't leave much time for real friendships either. So what happens now? Tyler asked. I don't know, Isabella said honestly, but I'd like to try staying friends if you're willing. Tyler thought about it. Despite everything, he had enjoyed Isabella's company more than anyone he had met in years. Okay, he said, but no more lies. If we're going to be friends, I need you to be honest with me. Deal, Isabella agreed. For the next week, they tried to maintain their friendship, but it was complicated in ways Tyler hadn't expected. Isabella insisted on paying for everything whenever they went out, which made Tyler uncomfortable. When she suggested restaurants that Tyler knew he couldn't afford, She would quickly backtrack and let him choose the place instead. The worst part came when Isabella visited Tyler's house to meet his mother and sister. She was completely gracious and kind, but Tyler couldn't help noticing how she looked around their small home, taking in the peeling paint and secondhand furniture. After dinner, as Tyler walked Isabella to her car, she made an offer that changed everything between them. "Tyler, I've been thinking," she said carefully. "I know your family is struggling with medical bills and other expenses. I could help. I could pay off your mother's debt, set up a fund for your sister's college education. It wouldn't even make a dent in my trust fund." Tyler felt his face flush with anger and embarrassment. "We don't need your charity, Isabella." "It's not charity," she protested. "It's friendship. It's gratitude for saving my life." "Let me help you." "No," Tyler said firmly. "My family may not have much money, but we have our pride. We don't take handouts." Isabella looked hurt and confused. "I don't understand. I'm offering to solve your problems. Why won't you let me?" "Because there are problems to solve," Tyler replied. "You can't just throw money at everything and make it better." The argument escalated from there, with both of them saying things they didn't mean. Isabella accused Tyler of being stubborn and foolish. Tyler accused Isabella of thinking money could buy anything, including friendship. Things got even more complicated when a local news station ran a follow-up story about the rescue. Someone had recognized Isabella and leaked her identity to the media. Suddenly, Tyler found himself the subject of intense scrutiny. "Local hero befriends billionaire heiress," read the headline in the Norfolk newspaper. The article speculated about Tyler's motives and included quotes from unnamed sources suggesting he was trying to cash in on the rescue. At the construction site, Tyler's co-workers started treating him differently. Some joked about him hitting the jackpot, while others seemed to think less of him for associating with someone so wealthy. Big Mike pulled him aside one afternoon with a concerned expression. "Son, I hope you know what you're doing," Mike said. "That girl's from a different world than us. People like that don't stay friends with people like us for very long." At the restaurant, customers who recognized Tyler from the news coverage treated him like a celebrity, asking invasive questions about Isabella and their relationship. The attention made Tyler deeply uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Isabella was dealing with pressure from her own family. Her father's assistants had started calling multiple times a day, insisting she return to California immediately. Her security team, which Tyler hadn't even known existed, began following her around Virginia Beach. "My father thinks I'm having some kind of breakdown," Isabella told Tyler during one of their increasingly strained conversations. "He can't understand why I want to spend time in a place like this." "A place like what?" Tyler asked, his defensive instincts kicking in. "You know what I mean?" Isabella said, then immediately looked like she regretted the words. "No, I don't think I do," Tyler replied coldly. The final blow came when Tyler overheard two women talking about him at the grocery store. "I heard he's just using that rich girl," one of them said. "Probably thinks he's going to marry into money and never have to work again." "Can you blame him?" the other replied. "If I saved a billionaire's daughter, I'd definitely try to cash in." Tyler left his cart in the middle of the aisle and walked out of the store. When he got home, he found his mother and sister reading something on Lucia's laptop. "What's that?" Tyler asked. "Someone posted about you on social media," Lucia said, turning the screen toward him. "They're saying some pretty mean things, Tyler." The post included photos of Tyler and Isabella together, along with cruel comments about gold diggers and social climbers. Reading the comments felt like being punched in the stomach over and over again. That night, Tyler called Isabella and told her they needed to take a break from their friendship. "The attention is too much," he explained. "It's affecting my family, my work, everything. People think I'm using you, and honestly, I'm starting to wonder if they're right." "Tyler, you're not using me," Isabella said, her voice breaking slightly. "You're the most genuine person I've ever met." "Maybe," Tyler replied. "But this isn't working. We're from different worlds, Isabella. Maybe it's better if we just accept that." After he hung up, Tyler sat in his kitchen staring at his phone. He had thought their friendship could work despite their different backgrounds, but the past week had shown him just how naive that hope had been. The gap between their worlds wasn't just about money. It was about everything: expectations, pressures, the way other people saw them. And Tyler was beginning to realize that no amount of good intentions could bridge that divide. At least that's what he thought at the time. 3 weeks passed without any contact between Tyler and Isabella. Tyler threw himself back into his routine of construction work, restaurant shifts, and weekend lifeguarding, trying to pretend that their brief friendship had never happened. But it was harder than he expected to go back to his old life. At the construction site, Tyler found himself thinking about the conversations he and Isabella had shared about social issues and helping people. During his restaurant shifts, he noticed things he had never paid attention to before, like how some families clearly couldn't afford to eat out, but were celebrating a special occasion anyway, or how some elderly customers seemed to come in just to have someone to talk to. Most of all, during his lifeguard shifts, Tyler started thinking about all the people who never made it to Virginia Beach because they didn't know how to swim or couldn't afford swimming lessons. He had grown up taking his water skills for granted, but he realized that many kids in his own neighborhood had never had the opportunity to learn. On a quiet Sunday morning at the beach, Tyler was talking with Janet about the summer's rescue statistics when she mentioned something that stuck with him. "You know, Tyler, we prevent a lot more rescues than we make," she said. "Most of the serious incidents happen because people don't understand water safety. They don't know how to spot rip currents, don't understand their own limitations, never learned proper swimming techniques." "What if we could teach more people?" Tyler asked. "Not just swimming, but real water safety education?" Janet looked thoughtful. "That would be amazing, but it would take serious funding. Pool time, certified instructors, equipment. The city's recreation budget is pretty tight." That conversation planted a seed in Tyler's mind that grew over the following days. He started researching water safety programs in other cities, looking at drowning statistics and learning about organizations that taught swimming to underserved communities. The more he learned, the more passionate he became about the idea. Meanwhile, Isabella was struggling with her own problems back in California. Her father was pressuring her to return to Stanford for her senior year and immediately begin preparing to take on responsibilities within the company. The brief taste of freedom and genuine friendship she had experienced in Virginia made her old life feel even more suffocating than before. "Isabella, you've been moping around for weeks," her father said during one of their increasingly frequent arguments. "That lifeguard boy was exactly what I worried about, a distraction from your real responsibilities." "Tyler wasn't a distraction," Isabella replied firmly. "He was the first real friend I've had in years, someone who cared about me as a person, not as an investment opportunity. Friendship is a luxury you can't afford," her father continued. "You have obligations to this family, to the company, to the thousands of people who depend on us for their livelihoods." But Isabella couldn't stop thinking about Tyler's dedication to his family and his work. She had grown up in a world where money solved every problem. But Tyler had shown her a different kind of wealth. The satisfaction of earning what you had, of making a real difference in people's lives through your own efforts. The turning point came when Isabella read a news article about a drowning incident at a public pool in Los Angeles. A 12-year-old boy had died because none of the adults present knew how to swim well enough to save him. The tragedy reminded Isabella of her own near-drowning experience and made her think about Tyler's words during their last conversation. That night, Isabella called her personal assistant and asked her to research water safety programs and drowning prevention statistics. What she learned shocked her. Drowning was one of the leading causes of death for children, particularly in low-income communities where swimming lessons were often unavailable or unaffordable. Isabella spent the next week developing an idea. Instead of returning to Stanford immediately, she convinced her father to let her spend a semester working on an independent project. She told him she wanted to study nonprofit management and social impact investing, both areas that could benefit the family business in the long run. With her father's reluctant approval, Isabella flew back to Virginia in early September. She didn't contact Tyler immediately. Instead, she spent several days researching local community centers, talking to swim instructors, and visiting neighborhoods where access to water safety education was limited. Finally, on a Thursday afternoon, Isabella showed up at the construction site where Tyler was working. She waited in the parking lot until his shift ended, then approached him as he walked to his truck. "Hello, Tyler," she said simply. Tyler stopped walking, clearly surprised to see her. "Isabella, I thought you went back to California." "I did, but I came back because I have an idea I want to share with you." Something I think you might be interested in. Tyler looked skeptical, but he didn't walk away. I'm listening. What if we started a nonprofit organization focused on water safety education? Isabella said. Not just swimming lessons, but comprehensive programs that teach people how to be safe around water, how to recognize dangerous conditions, basic rescue techniques. Tyler's expression shifted from skepticism to interest. Go on. I've been researching this for weeks, Isabella continued, pulling out a folder full of documents. Drowning rates are highest in communities that don't have access to swimming instruction. Kids grow up afraid of water, or they think they're stronger swimmers than they really are. Adults don't know how to spot dangerous conditions. This sounds like something that would cost a lot of money, Tyler said carefully. It would, Isabella admitted. But here's the thing. I don't want to just write a check and walk away. I want to build something sustainable, something that really works. And I need someone who understands water safety from the ground up, someone who's actually saved lives and knows what it takes. Tyler looked at the documents Isabella had prepared. She had clearly put serious time and thought into this proposal. What exactly are you suggesting? A partnership, Isabella said. You would be the program director, in charge of developing the curriculum and training instructors. You'd hire and supervise the staff, manage the day-to-day operations. I would handle the funding and business side, but you would be in charge of everything that actually matters. And what would I get out of this besides a salary? Tyler asked. The chance to save lives on a much bigger scale than you ever could as a lifeguard, Isabella replied. The opportunity to build something that could help thousands of kids learn skills that might save their lives someday. Tyler was quiet for a long moment, thinking through the implications. This wouldn't be charity, he said finally. No, Isabella agreed. This would be a job. A real job where you'd be using your skills and experience to make a difference. You'd earn every dollar of your salary. Over the next 2 hours, sitting in a nearby diner, Isabella outlined her vision in detail. She had already identified potential locations for programs, researched certification requirements for instructors, and even spoken with insurance companies about liability coverage. I've learned a lot about business from my father, Isabella explained, but I've never learned about making a real difference in people's lives. That's something you could teach me. Tyler found himself getting excited about the possibilities. He could imagine mobile programs that brought water safety education directly to communities that needed it most. Summer camps that combined fun activities with life-saving skills. Partnerships with schools to make water safety part of regular physical education. There's one condition, Tyler said finally. What's that? If we do this, we do it right. No cutting corners, no using your name to get special treatment. We succeed or fail based on the quality of our work. Not because you're Isabella Chen. Isabella smiled, and for the first time in weeks it reached her eyes. Deal. They shook hands across the diner table, and Tyler felt something he hadn't experienced in years. The excitement of working toward a dream instead of just surviving day to day. 6 months later, Second Chance Swimming had programs running at 3 community centers in Virginia and North Carolina. Tyler had earned his instructor certifications and was training other lifeguards to teach water safety education. Isabella had learned more about nonprofit management than any Stanford course could have taught. Their friendship had evolved into something stronger than either had expected. A true partnership built on mutual respect and shared values. They had found a way to bridge their different worlds by focusing on what they both cared about most: helping other people. Tyler still lived in Norfolk with his mother and sister, but now he had a career that felt meaningful instead of just necessary. Isabella still had responsibilities to her family's business, but she had also found a way to use her resources for something she was genuinely passionate about. Most importantly, they had learned that the gap between their worlds wasn't unbridgeable. It just required finding the right bridge. And sometimes the strongest bridges are built not with money or good intentions alone, but with genuine partnership and shared purpose. As Tyler stood on a pool deck watching a group of 8-year-olds practice their water safety skills, he realized that the rescue at Virginia Beach had saved more than just Isabella's life. It had led both of them to discover who they really wanted to be.